anything with Blake or them.
It's Jennifer doing anything.
Oh,
I don't ask questions.
oh my.
So extension, yesterday the council had decided to do a little bit of an adjustment for folks if they're not already at that level.
Right.
And so both of your positions fit into that area. So
Okay.
the
Do you have numbers?
yeah, the regular wages is $29,260.
29,260.
Yeah. And part-time, if you're keeping with the same number of hours, and that's all part of that program, is that correct?
So, yeah, so that is reimbursed at 50%
Okay.
through Scholar Track. So whatever we pay through that program, we get reimbursed half.
Half of it, okay.
Yes.
Well, I've got a total of 642 hours, which is what we had this year. That's a part of a pool that you can
Yes.
schedule or whatever. And if I take that with the new rate, then the total would be 8,473. I think that the recommendation then is on your miscellaneous revenue report with Sheila. Make sure that you refigure that to include the latest half share. Cause you're gonna wanna that difference needs to be accounted for in the bottom line.
So do they reimburse the half of that 8,473, or is
Yes.
that the half? Okay,
Yes,
Okay.
yes, so we budget the full amount and then they reimburse
reimburse, okay,
half of it. Because we have to pay it first, it's not ahead of time. So
Okay.
it has to be in there so that we can pay it and then it gets reimbursed and I assume back into the general fund, yes.
Yeah, and that was weird last year, we fixed it because there
Yes.
was this separate fund.
Yeah,
And it was
it was too.
a reverse negative or something weird.
It
Wasn't working,
was too
so.
confusing.
And that fund, I believe, had been closed out and it's settled up and it's,
So last I checked,
okay.
yeah. And then, so in my proposal,
Can we real quick finish on your FICA and your PERF, just to get the wage part
I'm
done?
sorry.
So FICA, I have 2,887. And then PERF, 3,277.
It wasn't too far off on my.
So there you go, that's all for wages.
Okay, gotcha. So I was just getting ready to say, so on my supply line, I included a cost for phone system, which I had a conversation with Anton, a few weeks ago. Well, after I turned this in. Because that would be a one-time expense, he suggested maybe taking that back out, not including it in the budget and counting it as a one-time expense at some point later for that. But eventually, and when I say eventually, pretty soon, we're gonna need new phones. They are falling apart and you can ask these guys, it's hard to hear, it's hard for people on the other end to hear. We can't access our voicemails like we should.
Have you talked to the phone company about
It's
the
our
lines
phone.
coming in?
It's our phones.
It's your phones.
Mhm. Our phones are over 20 years old. The last, when I went to look for any kind of receipts or, documentation of when they were purchased, that they were purchased in like 2001, something like that. They're a very old model, and they're just not supporting the current technology.
Would we wanna take that out and do one time?
right, that's what they were talking about doing. So
Okay.
your supplies would be in
Yeah, if we take that back down to what I had last year, which is $32.50.
3250.
And and then that difference, was that a formal estimate you'd received, or was that a general?
We just, y'all had me, everyone, so it was due, the budget was due in the middle of fair. As you might realize, that was my busiest time, so, I had very quickly just done some cursory, had Terry kind of just help me, and I contacted, Mark Evans in Putnam County, because Putnam just bought phones 2 years ago, and theirs were about 4,000, and they have about the same size office and the same kind of needs in phones, so it was a very rough road at the dartboard kind of guess, but I don't imagine it would, we don't need fancy. But we need to be able to have voicemail, we need to be able to get it remotely, we need for people to be able to hear us, when they call in.
Now, on the contract services, that's yours and that's per statute of Purdue, right?
Yes, so that's the contractual services for
Right.
Purdue.
Everything else was the same. Did you get the numbers?
I have 106, 282.
106, 282.
So did you all have any questions for us?
Instead of 6,000.
Thank you for all you do.
Alright, so I
Thank
just
you.
I wanna just double check, so Terry will fall into that.
Yeah, it's not huge, but it'll be,
Is there an idea what that?
outside of the normal, normally with longevity, it would have been about $150 increase for the year, but her actual is gonna be about 509. So there's a little bit there.
Okay.
Mhm.
Alright, well, if you don't have anything else for us, we will, get out of here.
Thank you.
That was easy.
That wasn't hard.
Off the list.
Alright, thanks guys.
Go find some bugs, Bob.
Ah.
You want me to bring it to you?
Yeah.
That email to you, Sam.
So have we called any of the others or?
Well, we could start working on the sheriff.
So, soil and water's not coming? Or what?
They're on for
Oh,
1
1:40.
o'clock,
Yeah,
so.
And this one, I want.
Yeah, 1 o'clock.
So, is there any way we could get Chamber in here earlier?
That would be nice.
They must be running this anyhow, they didn't have no food for us this year.
They're providing lunch tomorrow. That may be contingent.
You're talking about 20 minutes. They're probably not there. They want to, they're not even supposed to be here till 2:30. They're not answering. Could we text it to Jason? You want redevelopment here too?
Yeah.
What about elected officials? Is that part of the?
We're running ahead of schedule. You guys could possibly
Is that part of it?
It's okay. Oh. Okay,
Sure.
We already did elected officials after
okay.
the recorder.
Okay, so we will see.
All that's already been.
Yeah.
I'll come in earlier, that'll be good. Okay, that's okay, thanks, bye.
You say,
Board is all coming,
Huh?
I've been told
you
to.
say about the elected.
That's what, but she said that's part of the recorder,
Okay.
part of the recorder's deal. The elected, the
elected, officials training, or is that what you're talking about?
Basic training or something after all? Or pay for elected officials?
That budget, yeah. What that is.
Yeah, and I thought that budget so clearly outlined who's to use it, and it doesn't. The code,
Yeah, it
I
should.
looked up the
On
code,
which one?
I couldn't find, it just said elected officials.
Yeah, it
I
has,
didn't see where it said that it had to be assessor, auditor,
It's in the law.
is it in there? Okay. I
Yeah,
just
there's
probably
only certain
didn't look
offices that
far enough
qualify
down.
and then certain types of expenses.
So they're coming in at
245 is Marcy, Economic Development. And if Jason applies, does anybody have the number for soil and water? Do you have the whole soil?
203.
Do you want me to mute this? This is
Yeah,
still.
the elected
Oh,
officials
yeah.
pay $1,600.
Oh, okay,
Do you
that's
have
training.
recess?
training.
Mute it. So,
Alright.
but we don't know. when
We can get soil and water in here, then that gives us
Yeah.
a nice block.
That would be good.
Okay, so it's 829-2605. You want me to call him?
Sure. Yeah,
See what Sean's doing, he may not.
Deal.
what?
Salt and water.
Well,
Bring us all back.
now they're asking for this right here to move the electric
Hey
panel.
Sean, this is Anton Neff, how are
We
you?
don't own that building.
Good,
They don't.
good. We're running a little ahead of schedule. We'd like to know if we can get you in,
Yeah.
if you are available to come down.
No.
Yes.
Yeah, come on down and we'll take care of you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you, bye.
You're gonna be asked,
All right, soil and water's on their way down.
because if you got paid for last year and it wasn't the county, who paid it?
Yeah.
I don't wanna pick up anything the state cut.
Yeah, like utilities and advertising, all that stuff he's included in there now. And the dues and subscriptions going from 100 to, increased $2,000. We
Wow.
need to,
Go ahead, I'll be right there.
We've got probably 5 minutes at least, so,
are they coming?
yes,
Oh, good.
yep, they are.
Salt and water.
Do you wanna
Well, you
recess?
can have it when they get here.
Okay, so, just
Won't take any time.
Temporary
What was that?
recess?
Just say it.
What'd you say, Bert?
Having a temporary recess now.
Okay.
Sure it'd be nice if,
Okay,
Riley Road was
bring it back.
patched more than just a
Okay.
few places, wouldn't
It's a huge improvement.
it?
I've even called the office down there and thanked the clerk for pushing the issue.
Okay, we're gonna bring this back to order, and soil and water, ready for your,
I guess we're up then.
you're up.
So the first item is regular wages, and we did make a decision yesterday on a first step with that, which does impact the position you're in. So we have a rate of $34,464. And that would make the FICA amount $2636. And it would make PERF $3860. And there weren't any other positions or wage-related stuff in here.
What was it? That sounds like a pretty good raise based,
Well, let's take a look.
thanks.
Soil and water, the wage portion, about 2,300, and then there was FICA and the PERF and a little bit of workers' comp. It's not any different than most of the courthouse. A couple prosecutors' offices were around 2,600.
At least it's something.
Yeah.
Tom?
So it's not unusual. It is a professional class, so, thank you, sir.
Office supplies went up $1,400. And then there's $10,000 for maintenance.
Okay, are we ready?
And could you repeat those numbers again?
Yeah, sure. Regular wages, 34,464. FICA, 2636. PERF, 3860.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you wanna field questions, or do you wanna go through and explain some of your,
Sure, I can, first off, I'd like to say good afternoon to all the Owen County Council members. I'd also like to thank you for your continued support of Owen County Soil and Water Conservation District. And I'd like to give a thank you to my liaison, Nick Robertson, for his help assisting me in this budgetary process. So a little bit first of who I am. Quick introduction, my name is Sean Huss, I'm the Director of Owen County Soil and Water. I'm directed by a board of 5 supervisors who instruct me on better ways to serve the citizens of Owen County. And I serve those citizens by helping them conserve land, water, forest, wildlife, and related natural resources through education, financial assistance, technical assistance, and this is done in an effort to develop locally driven solutions to natural resource concerns. And I'd like to offer everyone from the Owen County Council to sometime visit our office, maybe come to a meeting. We're located at 788 Pottersville Road, just south of Memorial Bridge. Hold board meetings every 4th Tuesday of every month at 4:30 p.m. First off, I wanted to say I understand the county's current financial situation, but want to make the council aware of any of our major expenses that will be coming to in the future. And I was first interested in the wages. I had a question regarding cost of living adjustment. I didn't know if that's occurred in the past, or who that's offered to for county employees.
So it
Well, we've not
has,
had one in a while, but yeah, the cost of living is in our current system, but it's not been given.
Okay.
And now, in lieu of that, we're in the middle of reorganizing, so we're really focusing more on dollars attached to job duties and responsibilities rather than just a 2% increase.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So next I would like to actually go over the supplies budget line item. This is just a line item looking at our bookkeeping costs and mainly our printing costs for educational brochures and outreach to Owen County citizens. Our main way of outreach used to be the Spencer of the World, but seeing as its current situation is sort of going downhill, that means we're having to do more postage and more printing to get our message out to Owen County landowners for events and programs. Does the council have any questions about the supplies budget line?
Is this an increase from last year?
I believe so, yes.
I mean, I know you've added it to our budget, was there more money spent in the 400 last year on supplies?
I couldn't give you the full number right now off the top of my head. But just thinking that it's probably going to increase over time as well, considering we're going to be having to send out more things through postage for events and for programs, for more people to attend, get more people in specific conservation practices.
I asked it because I was wondering if there was another fund on the state level that you was drawing from for supplies.
Only what was given to us by the state. If you look at our leveraging sheet right here, there's a state investment for district operations. We get $10,000 every year if we meet their standards of having an annual meeting, having an election process, and if you meet those standards, you get granted that $10,000.
And you met that, so that will give
Yes.
it to you.
Yes.
So that's where you think your additional supplies that came out of a separate line item other than county budget?
That is where pretty much all our additional payment for every single line item is going towards. What we would like to do is use that $10,000 more towards programs and getting good public speakers to events where they can get landowners engaged and get them involved in conservation practices to where they can actually save money themselves. Furthermore, this leveraging sheet shows the highlighted portion at the bottom highlights for every dollar that the county invests in ONSWCD, we make 16.71 back to the Owen County landowners through these education and conservation cost shares provided through NRCS and SWCD and ISDA and all of our conservation partnerships. Now, the other line item I wanted to go over, and I just want to make the county aware of it, it has been a long-standing issue ever since we bought this property, is the maintenance line item. And 10,000 would definitely be a lower tier for what we're asking for. It's gonna cost more in the future undoubtedly. This would be looking at stages. Obviously, we're not gonna be asking for a large budget to do things now. This would be done over a long period of time. And from what I've seen, this has been a long-standing issue for the past 5+ years since we bought that property. As of right now, that house is 100 years old, and it definitely shows its age. It has the original windows, and we have had to resort to using plastic covering over those windows to try to keep airflow down and energy savings high.
Okay, I've got a question. Who owns the house?
We own it, but it's also a pseudo-government building, so I believe the county still owns some of it. I believe you gave us money to buy it in the past. I was not involved in that process, so I cannot.
Because I would like to know that, because, I mean, as a business person, I mean, whoever owns the property is usually the one that makes the repairs and maintenance on it. So that's something I would like to know, who actually owns that property, who owns that house.
I believe the Soil and Water Conservation District owns the property.
Thank you, Steve.
So that's kind of, you know, that's kind of my issue with that line item there. I mean, cause you've got the collateral there, you've got usually if, you know, whoever owns the property is the one that makes the repairs and maintenance on it. So, I mean, that's,
I did wanna highlight that it's more than just sort of an office, it has more than just like a filing cabinet or a cubicle like what most people think of. It also has a conference room, a kitchen, a bathroom, and an upstairs attic. And that building is not just used by us, it is also used by MyPath as their office. They hold plenty of their meetings there as well. And there is also the potential of NRCS moving back to Owen County and being in that same building as well. So that would be a great
that's
building.
something that maybe you could, you know, work out with MyPath, that, you know, they could compensate you a little bit for that if, you know, if they're using your, you know, your facilities, but.
That's possible. I would like to ask if there's any one-off funds that the county has for building maintenance that may be used for this. Like I said, it's not gonna be asking for a large.
Yeah, but it's not our building. That's my big issue there. I mean, if you were
We might
going.
be able to make you a deal on it.
I mean, if you were, you know, if whoever owns that has the ability to, you know, sell that, and so if we were paying for new windows, it just doesn't make good business sense.
I would feel that MyPath, you know, if they use it and stuff, in their budget, they could, seem to me like they could come through with,
Well, they have a line item in their budget for support.
yeah,
And we do receive some funding from them that's used for other maintenance items currently.
I see. But
That's my stance on it. I just
yeah,
don't know of any other business that would.
what about this dues and subscriptions? I mean, what's that?
So, I don't know if everyone has the template, was that handed out at all? That sort of goes through every single due that we pay throughout the year. So we
I
pay
have that.
2,000 required dues to the Indiana Association of Soil and Water Conservation Districts. They are required to also remain in good standing and to be a member. We also pay the $25 required dues for the Indiana District Employee Association membership. Those are the two required dues. The other ones that we have are the $65 to the Owen County Chamber of Commerce to help us get our message out to Owen County landowners and to also be better connected with the people of Owen County. And then lastly, we have a $50 minimum membership for the National Association of Conservation Districts. And that is a way that you can highlight certain projects throughout the nation and also learn what other SWCDs are doing and be better connected with conservation practices and other SWCs around the nation. We were actually highlighted in this earlier in 2021 for our tree planting that we did on the backside of our property and the conservation ecosystem for the trees and the wildlife and the flood reduction that those trees provide for the White River and the floodplain area.
John, on this, you have $100 that we've given for years prior. That's over $2,000. Where did it come from before?
Like I said, it mainly also came from that $10,000 for district operations. However, the more we take out of that sum of the 10,000, the less we have for programming and outreach and education.
Well, the county is really strapped.
I understand that.
And, I'm just one member of the board. I don't know how we could pick up that additional cost. They could take a vote and maybe it'll be voted. But you've got a number of things down through here that are additional costs. that was unfunded. So you're probably thinking that most of those were taken out at $10,000.
Correct.
I would, this could be a year that you don't have to
These are.
spend your $10,000 and, I mean, I don't know, whatever the rest of it is.
Yeah, I think,
I knew this would be the question.
I think the building kind of going in reverse, if maintenance, and there was a note involving electric panel and replacement of windows. So
That's
you're-
more of a dangerous situation than anything,
Yes.
except that's in the basement of the building, and anytime it floods, that basement's prone to any sort of saturation. That
Right.
could become a larger problem in the future if left unchecked.
So regardless, just thinking about putting the ownership part aside for a minute and that element, regardless, we would never put a capital expense like that in a budget. So that wouldn't be there anyway, it'd be out of one-time money, and used for the project. But then you bring the ownership aspect back in, and who's ultimately responsible for that building? Polly had mentioned a good point about, if it were to be sold and you were to get out of the ownership business, where would who would get the sale proceeds? It would not be the county that would receive those, I'm guessing. It would be the district organization. And then you can use that to do another building or use that to pay rent or whatever. And so I think that really needs to be hammered down and confirmed before we firm any kind of a commitment to take on some of those type of expenses. I don't particularly have a problem with supplies and telephone and, some office type expenses and everybody's had their adjustments, and a little bit of travel and that kind of thing. But the building stuff, which is most of it, if you think about things like utilities, rent, the insurance.
What about the mortgage? I mean.
Oh, and the mortgage payment, those are all building related. And that's something that I think really needs to be researched here.
I mean,
I understand
because,
where you're coming from.
Yeah,
yeah, if whoever's paying the mortgage should be who owns the property.
I did want to say one more thing regarding the maintenance, and that's that we are in a very unique situation here. Out of all the other 92 SWCDs in Indiana, I do not know a single one that has a house or a building like that. It has its own unique opportunities and its own unique challenges to it. I'll just leave it at that. Okay, so the next line item, I believe we are on the telephone. And that's actually just pretty simple explanation. Comcast decided to increase their bill earlier this year. That would just be so that we can better connect to the Owen County residents. We get a couple calls a day, a couple emails a week. And we also do site visits based on those connections, and we also answer any questions that Owen County citizens might have, natural resource related. Next would be the line item for utilities, but I believe that's already going to go back into what you mentioned for maintenance. Correct me if I'm wrong.
yeah, anything building related is gonna be on the same boat, I think there.
Okay, so next we have advertising. And this is mainly for the required advertising for our annual meeting and required advertising for our locally led meeting. We literally are required by the ISWCD with a state statute to leave a notice in the paper for those two events. That's what that budget mainly goes towards.
Have you ever thought about sponsors or something for your advertising?
Not for advertising, we usually use sponsors for events though, I have not considered that.
Well, the total budget went from 22 to 68, and there's many things here that were paid for somewhere else last year. And then there's items here that really, mortgage, utility, some of those items, I don't know how the county can pick them up, but there again,
The last line item I would like to briefly go over would be the liability insurance line item. This is paid to Indiana Farmers Mutual Insurance, and it is for commercial inland marine insurance for whenever any of our assets are moving from location to location. And also the property insurance for any flood-related incidents.
there again, whoever owns that should be carrying a liability policy or rental policy or homeowners, so that wouldn't be home, but whatever. And Sean, I might sound like a broken record, I just know the financial straps that we're in. And I don't wanna mislead you, next year you might come back and we might say, well, yeah, we can take that on.
Like I said, I fully understand that the council's really in between a rock and a hard place for the budgetary costs for the county, and I fully understand the issues that provides, and just want to pretty much say I would be appreciative of any sort of budgetary requests and budgetary amounts that the council approves of, and leave it at that. And if you guys have any more questions for me, I'll be happy to answer them.
I want to say I talked with Sean, he had a very kind spirit, I appreciate our conversation, appreciate you doing your job, and I'm confident this young man is doing a good job, I appreciate it.
There's no doubt about that. We watched you grow up in 4-H and other things, and we appreciate your service. One thing that I think we skipped over, because I know there's some other concerns, but, or maybe I just wasn't directly involved or outside, but, it looks like an $1,100 increase in office supplies. And I know you talked about the dues and subscriptions increasing, but what are the big things as far as office supplies that are going to increase this year versus last?
Printer ink, printer paper, postage stamps, those are the three big ones. Printing out our materials, sending them out to Owen County landowners. I think I made a list of about a little over 300 recipients for our educational brochures. And I'm working on trying to improve that to maybe over 500 people, so. Just goes into those costs.
I know printer ink the costs have really went up, but is it that much? I mean, is this?
I believe for a full set of printer ink, every color including black, I believe it's about $400 to $600 for a set. And most of these brochures, once again, we don't just mail them because that sort of would be throwing money down the drain some of the time. We also like to hold events, go to farmers markets, go to the Owen County Fair, where people can come to us and pick up these items and discuss any natural resource problems that they may have and build a working relationship with them.
Do you have any numbers to?
So as far as where we're putting numbers for now, which items are we gonna keep back?
You mean remove or?
Yeah, are we talking maintenance, take that back to zero, for instance?
I would take that back to zero.
Utilities,
I tell you, for
Mortgage.
right now, to begin with, until we see whether got any extra money, I think the wages, of course, we agreed to that to begin with, on raising them and stuff, but outside of that, I think we need to keep our budget about like we had last year till we see if we got any extra money.
So I took out liability insurance, utilities, the rent or mortgage, which just for the record was in there already.
That's
So
what it would be.
that's 48,540 is what I'm coming up with.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna.
What are you keeping? 400?
Supplies, 1,500,
So you're
dues and
Keeping
subscriptions,
regular wages, stipend,
2140.
supplies,
Travel.
dues and subscription,
Teachers, 22,
mileage and travel,
60.
telephone, and advertising.
keeping the advertising.
Yep.
47,880.
48,540.
Are you keeping the 4121?
Down, basically.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Sometimes they don't know. 48,540.
48,540. The other thing too, just to be fair both ways, is that are there expenses that you didn't put down here that are in other places that you can swap, that might be more applicable? If we can't necessarily do building related stuff, there might be some other operational, like registration and conference and that kind of thing. So is there anything else that's out in the sphere that might be better fitted here than the building stuff?
There is registration and conference, I just don't have it on my top of my head.
Okay. I'm just trying to think, if you're trying to keep it fairly consistent and split things properly, it'd be better to reshuffle and have the things that we could actually cover that are more applicable, and then the stuff that isn't, that needs to be somewhere else, So food for thought.
So the rental's not gonna be covered anymore because it has been covered in the past.
Right now.
Mortgage,
Yes.
I don't know why that would have been covered if it's not in our name.
I think I can explain that, the rationale or the way it came about. I'm not defending it, but I can explain it. The Soil and Water Conservation District used to be housed in the Farm Bureau building, and we paid rent on that spot. When the decision was made to purchase this property and move the office, the council at that time agreed to continue to pay that amount, which we applied to the mortgage. So that's how it came about, the carryover from further years.
I agree that's, I understand that there's concern about whether it's right or wrong now, but I do remember whenever they purchased this, that there was a cost share on the employee and the house for it.
Still don't understand
And I understand that, but
that. Because now they've got, a capital asset there that they can.
Well, and it's so easy now to just, say one thing, but, at the time that would have happened, there would have been a legal review, the commissioners would have looked at it. I mean, a lot probably occurred during that time. Now, that doesn't mean that that's the right course now, but I just think it needs another review. Is it the right direction? Is that the right split? Is the responsibility correct? Is the liability correct? And depending on those answers, then we can reevaluate at that point, see what's needed to be done on that.
Did you look into that, Jim? I mean, would you be able to?
Sure, I don't know by the September meeting, but I definitely will try. But I will call out Soil and Water and then kind of lead me to kind of the documents and directions. I'd be happy to do that.
Thank you. Anybody else got any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.
take care, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you, see you, Steve.
Okay, we still have till 1:45, don't we?
Hopefully we get a hold of Jason.
You did. They're busy.
So that was economic development, Jason Kenny.
You miss.
You know. I got cornered by Bill Stowe the other day regarding economic development.
What now?
So I got cornered
Hey,
by
question for you.
the other day regarding economic.
Holiday
development.
pay is paid out.
Got an earful.
FICA is taken from that. Applicable requirements. It qualifies. Okay.
Hi, Jason. Hi, this is Nicole Vandermoor. Hi. Hey, the council is ready for you if you'd like to come over early. Yes, if you can't make it, that's fine. They just asked me to give you a call.
Like inner city,
Perfect.
housing that
That's okay.
redeveloped and made in, I don't know why we have development.
We're doing the.
No, they've got some others, but,
We're doing
and we know like,
Think so.
Gallup development,
We're doing, 911.
we're slated for them too, but,
Yeah,
What else we doing tomorrow?
okay.
Right now, those are the only two, other than going back, you had a few pending.
Nope, that's totally
I
fine.
think tomorrow
We have
might
the
be, if we can get
highway-
highway back in would be good.
Highway
Yeah,
lit,
that'll be fine.
you're still working
Okay.
on sheriffs.
Oh, you're welcome. Talk to you later.
And,
Bye-bye.
when Kathleen's comes up,
Can't make it early.
don't forget to ask about the WTH, that the other half of that bill, I believe was at 5,600 or something that Suzanne talked about yesterday. We need to put that in her budget and or discuss if you're putting it in there. The highway review and the sheriff's, and that's all you have on, just to relook at, and then the sheriff's. And then your recalls and those.
Have they decided on what we're doing with my seasonal person?
And we haven't decided, we haven't been able, we haven't discussed it anymore.
I think they're planning on recalling. Wasn't that what you guys said?
Kind of at the end of
Recall everybody and review, or if there's adjustments, cause they still have to see what that total dollar amount that either they gained or lost, to see if they can give more money in raises. But that was one of the seasonal, was one of them
Want to kind of
specifically
wait
on the
until
budget.
very end on going back over.
sheriff's department.
Should it start today?
Hmm?
Did Wednesday Day start today?
I think so.
I know we're getting into those, that's in the book. Have you all found it?
Towards the back of it.
When do they come in next?
I think.
I might be overlooking it,
was after 1 o'clock or
You know what, Nick, I don't think I found it either.
Well, on yours, I ain't either.
What do you need on it?
The economic development,
And also the redevelopment, either one of them.
It was in your packet.
What?
I called, they said they could not be here before 2:45.
Well, I mean, and
No,
we can't find the budget, their budget
It's
is.
in the additional stack you had
It was
when you
added
came in.
to, look at the very bottom of your pile, I think is where.
Oh, in here,
One of the new ones.
cause they don't turn it,
See, here's innkeeper's tax right here.
yeah, so.
Marcy didn't actually turn her budgets in until Monday, so that was why copies were made and.
Please say why?
Say why they didn't turn it in? Because their board didn't wait until Monday to approve.
I'm still not finding. Where is that?
Was it in some of the documents? In,
I believe I put it on the bottom of the piles when I had them laid out yesterday.
that's, wow.
Why can't?
We're gonna take a brief break.
In the middle of.
Shall we pause?
Yeah,
this?
yeah.
Okay.
Girls.
Deja vu.
Welcome back, gentlemen. I see you're matching kind of in a way here.
Yeah, we called each other.
Okay.
We get emotional, we don't dress the same, so.
So what I had done earlier is, you know, when we made our decision yesterday to do a little bit towards the system,
Yes.
that normally would have impacted about 7 of your positions anyway.
Right.
So I went ahead and entered that and got a basically baseline cost, a starting point,
Okay.
because that was gonna happen no matter what, if that makes sense.
Right.
So the only thing we're concerned about now, specific to your proposal, is the additional step, that, if that makes sense, okay? So I had snapshotted in my spreadsheet that those totals, so we know where we're starting from. Now it's a matter of plugging in, and I'd like to go position by position in this case and plug in the correct numbers. And then we can then look at the new total, make sure we figured the appropriate costs for holiday pay, FICA, police retirement, that kind of thing. And we'll see how far we get, because, you know, the next group will eventually come in. But I think we can knock out a good chunk of it here and have a good start, so. So let's start with some of the easier items. And Sheriff, if you're not prepared, not good.
One didn't have a notepad. My fault.
All right, so let's start with the secretary. So the new target rate for the secretary is $19.24 per hour. And that includes an additional 5 hours a week, because it changed from 1820 to 2,080 hours per year, okay? So we're gonna plug both of those in. All right, so for that, her exact amount of compensation for the year with her longevity in there is $40,167.42. Okay. Then we have a matron, and that also is changing. It was already at the 2080 hours, but the rate changed, so it's gonna go to 1962. And I've got $41,022.73.
Say that again, Anton.
$41,022.73. Next, let's do the cooks, or the cook. Now, originally, your proposal had that 971 hours, that should really be 1456, which is 28 hours a week through the whole year. So that I already had in there, but I'm gonna change the rate to 1437. All right, so for the cook, the total is 22,213.89. And if you recall, we already entered that in the line item in the budget, because that's the only one that goes in that part-time line item. So that's the one thing we knew. All right, next up, we're gonna do court security, the part-time deputies. Now, we talked again about hours. We already have the correct number. We're not gonna change that. We had 2,900 and whatever hours between the two of them. But their rate is gonna change, so let's go into that.
This is under the general fund. Is that right? Or is this?
Yeah, we're not,
1170?
and they're currently under the general fund, so. All right, so the rate there is supposed to be 1703, and that's for, both of them.
Yes.
Okay. I think we're keeping the training component, the education component. They didn't have any particular rank in it previously, and they wouldn't qualify, so. And there's no shift that applies other than just regular shift. Okay. So the total for them, total for both is 53,905.51. Okay. Courthouse security full-time. That's gonna be part of the normal deputy. And the hourly rate is the $24.94. And I don't think either of them have a special rank or anything of that nature, right? So, $24.94. The total for them will be $117,761.34. So now that we know that, do we wanna go ahead and input in the courthouse security budget these numbers? Cause we could probably then finish that budget. Does that sound good?
Yeah, I think we need,
Might as well. So in that budget, regular wages are gonna be that 117,761.34. Or in this case, we're gonna round up, 117,762. Part-time is the 53,906. Okay. And then we do have FICA. And that's 13,133. There's no perf because part-time doesn't qualify and the full-time guys are a part of the police retirement, okay? The only other thing in that budget was $1,500 for uniforms, so I've got a total of 186,301. Now, to give you an idea of the impact that the proposal has, normally, all else being equal, they would have had a little bit of longevity in there. And the consultant's plan had your, kind of your lead deputy, there was a little better rate in general, separating him out, but that's been absorbed. So normally, you probably would have only seen, let's see here. Normally with our adjustments, we would have only seen about $400 in wages and then another $30 in FICA. And then 107 in retirement. So it was not, the baseline wasn't significant there. So that's about, let's see, retirement's not in there, so 395, 420. $12.52. So if we wanted to figure out the impact on the general fund that we originally hadn't accounted for, it's 24,609. All right.
yes, thank you.
All right, so we're filling in some gaps. All right, so let's go back. Now look at the rest. Let's do the jail officers next. Or no, I take that back. Let's do the chief deputy next, because these are different. So it will become a salary exempt position. And it's gonna be 70% of what the sheriff rate is. And the current sheriff rate is $99,165.60 times 70%. So that's $69,440 415.92.
You guys can go buy you a couple new pairs of shirts there.
There you go.
You can both come in pink next time.
Not with 2 4-year-olds Like they sure much.
I do.
I'm size 4'3".
Scares me the way you're rubbing it right now.
And you know, I'll be honest with you, this is a 4X.
Huh.
It feels great. That's the reason I'm running, feels good.
All right. Now, jail commander is also gonna be one that goes to a salary exempt type of position, and that's at 60% of the sheriff. So we're gonna go back to 99,165, 60 times 60%. And that's gonna be 59,499.36.
What was it, 59 what?
59,499.36.
So where it says regular wages, you want me to put it as regular salary?
Well, we don't have any totals yet for that, but yeah, we're just working through the individuals. So then when I go back into our structure and we try to, plug this in, if I take, and I'm just using hourly rate to keep it, because I don't have the salary programmed in here. If I take the chief deputy as 69,415.92, divide that out over 2,080 hours, that's the equivalent of $33.373 per hour. So what I'm gonna do is put that in here in our system. And when I do that with longevity and without the training, because your proposal had that removed, then that comes in at $72,743.84.
He's not doing anything with that.
What was that?
I'm not entering numbers yet.
These are individuals and they're all added
I
together.
know, I just didn't know if you had, if anybody had it up there, so I could.
No, we're just gonna make sure, we wanna make sure.
72,000 was who now?
This is the chief deputy.
Okay,
And the 72, this includes longevity, this is the amount that we're gonna put in for the budget.
okay,
So 72,743.84.
okay.
We're just doing this at the individual level because we wanna make sure we're accurate, and then we'll get our totals in there, so. Does that sound correct?
Yeah, I just didn't factor in, longevity.
Okay. All right.
I guess, in my thought process was that somebody hang on a second.
Yeah,
No,
whatever time you need.
I thought you were gonna hang on for a second.
No,
I guess in my thought process of doing this was the longevity didn't apply for the exempt salary positions.
normally we give longevity, whether it's exempt or non-exempt. Now, it's not gonna be expressed hourly, but it's gonna be flat. But our other exempt positions in county government get longevity,
Okay.
so you'd still get that. All right. Back down to the jail commander. So the amount for that, before we get into his longevity and stuff, was $59,499.36, and if we divide that by 2,080, we get an hourly equivalent of 28.605. Okay, so we're gonna enter that in. Now, was the training for your jailers, was that also gonna be eliminated, since a lot of that training is already required?
Yes,
Is that what your proposal included?
yes.
Okay. All right, so that, along with his longevity, he has some education in there, the total would be $66,468.37. All right, so that takes care of our two salaried positions. And to finish out the jail, looks like all regular jailers, rank aside for a moment, their new pay, base pay, is gonna be $19.28 per hour, correct? Okay. So I'm gonna go to all the other jail officers and put in 19.28. And then again, any kind of training, that's all zero, is that correct, for the jailers?
Yes.
Okay. And then three of them have some leadership or supervisory type tasks, and those are gonna be reflected in their rank. So they all have the same base, but there's gonna be a little different amount for rank. So you have two jail sergeants, and it looks like the new rank amount's gonna be $1.22. And then you have basically your assistant commander, which is your lieutenant. And the new rank for that is $2.76. So now, with those adjustments in place, we kind of finish out the jail side of this stuff, okay? Now, I can give you a total of all wages, if you'd like, for jail. But we also do know the individuals, and that's where coming up with the right combination for your facilities fund would be perfect, okay? So let's give the total.
Yes, sir.
This doesn't necessarily match with any budget sheets, but we're just gonna give a total. Yeah. See how this is confusing? 527, 922, 81.
So does that include the jail commander too, or is that just?
Yes, this is
Okay.
jail division, yes, that's full-time jail, is all of those positions. And that would go under regular wage. Now, the commander, I don't know what the way the line items, that might be a different line item for him, so there'll be that his dollar amount will be in a specific line item. The rest of them are just gonna be regular wages.
Right.
So the next question is for jail facilities, what is our limit? What's that 20% limit that we can't go over? Do you?
172, I think. 172%.
And that's 20% of whatever the certified shares are gonna be for that fund.
That's correct.
Now, if the certified shares go up, then the 20% goes up too, so you might have some additional flexibility. We don't know that until I think next week when the new numbers come out.
Right.
But you're basing it on the current revenue
That is correct.
that comes in there. And I think, isn't it about 400,000 for every 1/10% that goes, that we get in income tax?
No. I wish I could tell you that.
Cause I thought it was 800,000 pretty much. I mean, it's probably more than that, but, for some reason, I'm thinking 420,000 for every 1/10.
It's 172,000, some odd change, Anton.
If it's 800, if it's 852 annually, it's 170,400.
It's not, it's more than that. What do we bring in per month? 71,000. Sorry, wrong.
Trying to find the best way to get
I
that.
think I get $71,882.83.
$71,882, 71 cents, 83 cents.
So 862
Thank you, Jim.
times 0.2 is 172. Who was it that came up with that
This is
number?
short.
Okay. So the next question here is to think about, let's see here. So I will tell you, we're close, and we've got room, because we've got like 11 people here to pick and choose from to figure out. And so I think basically, we're probably looking at 4 positions, because just grabbing the bottom 4 on my list is 162. So we can tweak that with maybe a couple more higher paid, but we can get it pretty close. But the question is we're gonna have a regular wage line item in there, but we still have the FICA and the perf. So we might wanna pick on the low end, because the FICA and the perf, that counts towards that 20%, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's see here. And I don't think, we're not gonna put workers' comp and any of that stuff in there, right? We're just gonna put the wages for 4 people and leave it, keep it at that?
Yes.
Does that sound good?
Yes.
Okay. So 1. All right, so the concern there is that when you look at even the lowest, we would need about 31,000 to cover the FICA and the perf. So we might go with the 3 higher, a different combination of 3 positions in order to make it work. Yeah, is it okay if like the jail commander is paid out of that? I mean, does it matter to you?
I don't think it
Okay.
matters, because we've only got the 172 to go with.
Got it, so any combination works, okay. Let's see. I think we can make it work, but,
Already?
tell you, we're awfully close. The other thing to consider is, you know, income tax revenue growth is projected for us to be about 3%. So you're gonna, we might have just enough. If I take the jail commander, and then I take your two lowest paid, which are both about 40,500, I'm coming up with 147,500 in the wage part. If I do the 18.8% for FICA and all that, I'm coming up at 175.3, which is very close. And I don't know if that, from a state standpoint, how, again.
It is a hard cap. I mean,
Okay.
The problem is that one is a straight hard cap.
Got it.
Yeah.
So I think we can only hope then that some revenue growth in the total would be enough to do that extra 3,000, which 3,000 out of 860, that's about 3%. So, yeah, it's close. And there's some other combinations we have. We can certainly fine tune that.
Yeah.
Just move around some, whatever, but it's definitely gonna be 3 positions. You can't pull it off with 4. So we know that it's some kind of combination of 3 that are gonna have to add up to the 20% cut or less, you know, minus FICA and perf. So, yeah. So I don't know if we can necessarily, if we want or can fill in the number today for the jail facilities fund, unless you want to keep playing around with some numbers. Maybe we got a little bit of time here. Let me see what else I can come up with here real quick.
How many jailers does that include, that 527,000?
So we have a total right now of 12 full-time positions. Yes, yeah, that includes the jail commander.
So that includes.
Yeah, jail commander is one of them, and then 11 kind of regular folks.
So are you looking at jail housing?
No, this is the jail facilities. Correctional
facilities, okay.
Right.
And you know, I mean, just because we have the 20%, I mean, even if we're a little less than that, I would still work. We want to maximize it as much as we can. But for instance, if I take, other than the jail commander, if I take your next 3 highest positions, which are pretty much your leadership folks, you know, your 2 sergeants and your lieutenant, if I do that, plus the FICA and the perf, that's 160. You see, well, that works.
But then that's going to.
That leaves a little bit on the table that you're not taking advantage of.
Leaves a little bit on the table for the other side, on the road side of the business, so.
Can you, here's another question. The cook, can the cook be out of jail facilities? Because that's a 22.
Yeah, you can.
That might allow us some other options to mix and match.
Yeah, that is allowable, so that moves just. briefly discussed that a little bit there.
Let me see here real quick what might,
Jail matron.
Yeah, I mean,
Any of those could
you can measure, you can do it, combination.
I'm just playing around with some numbers here. Let's see.
There's some different combinations.
I had those in front of me, I can,
What'd you say?
All,
I just said if I had those per person in front of me, I could play around with it myself. Is that on your?
It's just on the spreadsheet, yeah.
so there's several combinations to look at.
I think I might have it.
You ain't gonna jump out the window and fall.
Take me with you. Ryan? Care to change into a plaid shirt if you wanna hang out here?
Is that a prerequisite?
I don't know.
Ain't gonna catch a break here. You set yourself a pair of glasses, you'll be all right.
Will give me the password for the, financial stuff. I've got the password for the rest of it.
I think I got it. I think I got it. Okay, so if we take we've got 3 jailer positions I'm just grabbing here, and one of them is 43, 8, 10, 10. Another is 40, 586, 78. And another is 40, 421, 30. So if I take those and add them up, they come out to 124, 818, 18. Multiply that so that we have our FICA and all that stuff. That's 148, 346, 41. We take our cook, which is 22, 213, 89. And we do just the FICA on that. That's 23, 913, 25. Grand total is 172, 259, 66. Wow.
What's the number? 172?
172, 259, 66.
I understand that. What's the cap?
I think that's the cap, 172 and.
72 is the cap, but in the hope for the 3% for the tax rate coming in, that it'll.
So what's that number again, 172?
172, 259, 66.
So that's with FICA for both, right?
Correct,
Okay.
yeah, that's all that's added in
not just the
there.
regular wages, that's.
Uh-huh.
That's everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, And you've got, you do have we have another jailer that's a couple hundred more less dollars than one of the ones in the mix, so,
Yeah.
we've got a little bit of room there, we can dial it back down a few $100. The other thing to remember too is, if they change shifts, or, someone leaves and, it's gonna just have to be monitored, but at least you have a guideline and a dollar amount of where you can kind of mix and match there. Right?
That's good.
So I think, in my opinion, I would maybe go ahead and trade out this one and get another $200 cushion in here, just to keep it as close to that 172. So let me see here, 43. Because then what we can do is go ahead and put a number in, which will help us finish out the other stuff, right?
Yes.
That's what I'd like to get off our list here today. So, yeah, so for your reference, the jailer numbers are 32, 34, and 48.
32, 34, 48.
Yeah. And then we have the cook. So let me redo the math here. So I'm coming up with 172, 110, 76. So I think we've got a combination here that's doable. So for regular wages in the jail facilities fund, or correctional facility fund, yeah. We're gonna put 124,693.
Regular wages, give me that number again.
124,693.
Need to add a part-time line.
Yep, and then we're adding a part-time line. And in that,
Just a second.
yeah,
We are talking the 1233 fund.
Yes,
yep, yeah.
part-time, go ahead.
All right, and then part-time is going to be 22,214. FICA is 11,238. PERF is 13,966. And I'm checking my math, we're good on that. And then you had 150,000 in maintenance, that stays where it's at, right? So the total for that budget is 322,111.
322 what?
322,111.
Awesome.
So, we've done a majority of this, the only thing really left for us to do is the deputies part to this. And I really think that surely we can get that done before we adjourn and we don't have to have a meeting next week. That would be awfully nice, right? So let's put that on hold if you think that's a good spot to hold it.
I know he,
Okay.
the chief deputy does have a commitment, later this evening. He'll have to leave here by 4 o'clock. He has a commitment, but
Well, I think we're gonna be done for today. I don't think we're gonna go past after we're done, right? So tomorrow, sometime tomorrow,
tomorrow will be great.
yeah, well,
That'd be great, yeah.
that works for me, so.
Thank you.
Really appreciate walking through this. I hope it made sense, so.
Yes, thank you.
Now, we still don't know, we're gonna, once we get all this done, we'll total it all up and compare it to our baseline.
Sure.
And make sure that our actual costs and what funds they're out of, we know what those bottom line dollars are. And then we can figure it out from there. But at least we know, jail facility, we already know how much we can park there and it's already parked there. So there's nothing more you're gonna do with that.
No.
We know where court security is, and we know what we might need to do to adjust to that. So really, we've got some things hammered out already that we didn't know before.
Got a lot done.
Okay?
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'll get you one presented. Go on.
There you go, Pink.
Just what mine, what size you wear? Put you on spot,
I'm
but.
not gonna answer.
Awesome. How's everybody? What's like getting married?
Or where?
I'm crazy. Michael, how are you? Good.
Or do we want to do the chamber tourism next thing?
Whatever's good for you guys.
Which one?
The chamber tourism. It's next on our list anyway.
Chamber, all right.
Yeah.
I
I found for the EDC, looks like that. It's a part from it, it's not in here.
I know
It's
this.
not in the book.
Economic.
Yeah, that's what is that okay?
Tourism.
Yeah, tourism,
You're gonna do the timekeeper?
yeah. Okay, for this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need one, bro? You need one?
Yeah.
I also need a copy.
There's a copier right here if you.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. That's good. Yeah, maybe Anton make us some.
You think I know how to run this thing?
Fix him on there.
Putting grab that.
I can try, but.
There you go.
Then your job description, Anton. Is that right?
That's economic development. Do you guys have
You're on
tourism?
tourism right
Okay.
now.
We got the tourism, you guys found it?
I have it.
Okay.
Yeah, for different time.
What have we got?
That one. And then,
Sorry.
It's all right. How many copies you need, Nick?
I need
20?
Save the tree. I need one.
Do you need,
Now I need one.
so we need two.
Got it.
I'll take one.
Sit down. Three coming back to you, does anybody else need anything?
Thank you.
Polly, you already had one?
Yeah, I had one.
Okay.
I mean, mine's the one I gave you.
Okay. Let me have that.
Sorry, I wasn't
Come on,
listening.
Polly.
That wasn't our fault.
There you go.
Thank you, sir.
Here's another one.
Okay.
Good move.
I had no idea we have our own hiking authors here in Owen County.
Yeah, I'm trying to get hikers to the county as well and around, not specifically. But give you a nice guide.
She does a lot of hiking. She always wrote the articles in the Evening World.
I see.
Anything we can post.
She's a good photographer too.
Yeah, I could tell.
She's just good. We bought our house. We bought our house from her. I know.
Well, I think we all know each other, but just in case, I'm Jason Kinney, the tourism director. This is Mike Spinks, and this is Beth Wood, tourism board members. So I just wanted to give a brief report of some of our activities, provide you some examples of what we do. So, you know, in your packet there are our newest publications. We published a guide to hiking in Owen County. It was written by Susan Anderson, who writes the Evening World column about hiking. And then tourism, we helped with the layout, and we published it and sponsored the print. And then the other item is our 2022 Visitors Guide, which lists businesses, attractions, different things to do around the county. It also has artwork by Owen County artist Ken Bucklew. And then I also put a copy in there of our August newsletter. And so that's a monthly newsletter that we do through email, and we also publish it on Facebook. And then the first page there, we put that up as flyers, different locations, so that people can scan that QR code and get the newsletter on their phone. And then, you know, we try to promote the county in a variety of different ways. So some of those ways that we do that are, we take out ads in state level publications and various promotions. So examples of that are the Indiana Festival Guide, the DNR Recreation Guide, Indiana Travel Map, and the Visit Indiana, which is the official state tourism guide. And so those publications are distributed throughout the state as well as online, so both print and online. In the Visit Indiana ad, we take out a brochure lead ad for our visitor's guide, and so we get requests for the visitor's guide to be mailed to people throughout Indiana and actually across the country through the state ad that we take out. And we also take out ads in some different magazines, like Bloom Magazine, as well as Terre Haute Living magazine. We do ads in the local festival books, such as the Apple Butter, Gosport Lazy Days, and the Owen County Fair. And then we sponsor various things throughout the county as well. We're a sponsor of the 5K and 10K races at McCormick's Creek State Park, which draws a lot of people into the county. The most recent race they had over 300 participants. And then we sponsor some events and movies at the Tivoli Theater, Farmers Market, Entertainment. We're a sponsor of the fireworks show at Lieber State Recreation Area that they do over Labor Day weekend. And then we do a variety of other advertising, such as TV commercials in the Terre Haute area, which reaches a broad audience, throughout the Wabash Valley. And, if there's any questions about what we do, I'd be glad to talk with you all about it.
Hopefully you can find these in most hotels along I-70 and at the visitor centers.
Yeah, I saw one in Richmond.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah.
We send it across the state.
Jason, how many of these do you get out?
Well, that's our newest publication, and so we printed those last month, and we did 200 copies. But they're going fast, so we're gonna have to print some more.
So you're hoping to get out 1,000 copies?
Probably, eventually, we just did 200 starting out to see how it goes, because it's brand new. And then the visitor's guide, we did a few thousand of those. Yeah, but the hiking guide being new, we just did 200, but we're going to have to print more there. It's been out for about a month or so, and it's going fast.
Did you have them professionally printed, or you have your own print system?
We have them professionally printed.
Just out of curiosity, what's your distribution system to get things to Richmond, Indiana? So do you just, is there a certain logistics company that does these sort of things, or do you just travel, or do you just mail them? How do you do that?
We usually mail them. We will, I will travel some, but most of it's through the mail. See, there's a distribution list that the State Office of Tourism provides.
Okay.
And it's various welcome centers and visitor centers throughout the state that participate in the program where they reciprocate, where, we send our brochures and they send them ours, or they send them theirs. So because of that, we have not just Owen County information in our visitor center here, but we have information from across.
Other visitors.
Interesting.
Have you been over there to the visitor center?
It's been a while since I've been
You should
over
go over there.
Huge
It's really nice, there are lots of information and a lot of local information through the state.
So we have a reciprocal relationship with these visitor centers across the state, where we're sending each other's visitors guides.
I see.
And I think Jason took it upon himself and his assistant to drive to Cloverdale and hit all the motels and hotels along I-70 there. So, there is a personal touch to it too. Yes.
Right, we did the same thing in Terre Haute along I-70. And in those situations, it is nice to add the personal touch of stopping in and talking with the people who work at the hotel and having them stock the brochure. But with most of the visitor centers and welcome centers, we mail those based on the state distribution list that we're provided.
We have some through the Canyon Inn as well.
Right, we put them at the Canyon Inn and various other locations throughout the county as well.
So essentially, the way this is set up is that we just have a contract line item in our budget, and then they run with that. And that's up to them to manage and all that, and that's not changed.
No, it hasn't changed. Same budget this year as we
Yeah.
had last.
So pretty simple.
A few line
Yeah,
items
so-
might have shifted, but
I
same
have a question, so this is fully funded by the innkeeper's tax?
It is. Mhm. And then my other question is, in terms of where we're at on revenue, are we pulling in pretty much that amount, or is it a different amount, and how much different? What kind of,
Balance is 105,208, and I'm not, we have to look and see what the monthly revenue is.
so the current cash balance with us is the $100,000.
5,208.
And then they were already given
we've taken
this
draws,
year's,
taken draws out of there.
yes, and do you do it all at once at the beginning of the year?
2 payments.
So 2 payments, and they're done when?
January and June.
January and June, so this 100,000 already reflects, we are current for 22. So there's essentially some excess there.
Yes.
And if there's any special project or certain expense that might be needed, we could technically we have a cushion that we could technically use. Is there a certain number
We
of?
show an appropriation, of course, in our books if we added more money.
Right, and you'd have to come to us for that first and all that. But what kind of things can that be used for? Is there some specific items that can only be spent on, or is it?
Well, it can't be spent on streets and roads.
Got it, okay, okay.
No, we make it a practice to look at things that will pull tourism to our county. Now, some counties like Crawford County down south use some of their money to redo some of their Little League baseball parks.
Oh.
So that they could bring in the baseball tournaments. We don't have that much activity here to justify something like that, but they can be used for projects that will bring tourism to our doorstep.
Okay, so technically you could have a $20,000 project like that. And then you could come to us and say, we'd like to tap into the extra.
Right.
And put it towards that project.
What we like to do is maintain a cushion though, in case something might happen to maybe the Canyon Inn or Watchung Lake or something, and that revenue stops for months.
Okay.
Hopefully nothing like that will happen, but we do want to maintain a little balance there so that we don't drain down.
And I would imagine that this 105 balance, I mean, we're post-COVID, so to say. And so there probably was a drop in revenue back in 2020, especially when COVID hit. But this is reflective of that history, so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So we're fortunate.
It could be better, I think, if everybody was paying what they were supposed to pay, you know, as far as the Airbnbs and now a lot of those, they paid their taxes straight to the state, and then the state distributes it to the treasurer. But there's no way that we know who's paying.
No, we don't, or they don't divulge who pays what, but all people are obligated to pay if they have a non-30-day resident, and they're not college, they're paying a fee or rental to the person that has the campground. We don't do tents and stuff like that. There is one area that we want to explore, I want to explore, is I watched 3 years ago, Sullivan, Indiana did a hospitality study to look at hotels and motels. They came out of that, 3 years later, they finally had a developer put in a hotel there that supports Terre Haute and all the overflow people at the Terre Haute region. We could do that with the idea of IU and some of the other things around here, but you'd have to put out like 5,000 to 6,000 for a hospitality study. We haven't taken that step, we just generally discussed it, that it might be the next step that we need to look, not that I'm prophesizing for a big hotel here in town, but we could have some nicer facilities to stay in. Not to throw us off, that's where we come from, but.
This is your chance to let us know what's going on, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, very informative.
On the budget end of things, so our request is for the same total amount that we requested last time. And as Mike mentioned, just some minor changes to certain accounts, but what we did is we made some decreases to printing, postage and shipping and office supplies just based on last year's spending and what we spent up to this point this year. And then so we needed to add some money to payroll taxes. So we moved that to payroll taxes, but it balances out the same. So it's the same total budget request as last time.
Most of the time, we have a part-time person helping Jason too, and they either work the summer or they're an intern at a high school, comes down and helps, and that's how we recruit more people to it.
Yeah, my assistant is a marketing and public relations major in college.
Oh, great.
So she works the summers and then continues doing some work for us when she goes back to college, some of the social media and newsletter and things like that. And then, and then I do have another assistant that comes in as needed, in the off season, not in the summer like the fall and the winter. So yeah, I think we have a good team going there.
When are you, do you have special hours that you're open, or?
We're open 10 to 3 Monday through Friday.
We do walking tours downtown too with an informational of what that building was and what it is today.
Oh, and tours of the courthouse too, I heard you.
Yeah, I did a tour of the courthouse recently, a group from Avon.
Oh, really?
They were visiting McCormick's Creek.
Yeah.
And they wanted to see the different historical points of interest, and one of them was the courthouse. They really enjoyed that. So,
I see.
I wanted to mention, we also have outside brochure holders, just outside our office. So if someone stops in after hours, they can still pick up most of our Owen County materials. We have our major Owen County brochures and pamphlets all out there. And then in the lobby, you know, in addition to our publications, we also have publications, brochures and pamphlets from various businesses and attractions in the county.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to us.
Yes.
We'll do the best we can to serve.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Come on up.
How are you, Marcy?
I'm well, how are you today?
Oh, not too bad.
I'm Marcy.
Mr. Wood?
Hey, Wally. My lady.
Hello? The golf course maybe do that extras so that the council can't be here today. Well, if you don't mind, I'd like to request to stand. I usually do that. I feel more comfortable that way if that's okay with all of you. Okay. Before I begin, I just want to take a moment to thank my board members, my past board members, and my chamber captains for being here to support me today. It means a lot for them to be here today. In the almost 4 years that I have had this position with the Economic Development and Chamber of Commerce, I have learned many things. And one of the things that I have learned is a phrase that I have heard over and over again. And that phrase is, know your why. So for example, if I asked any of you why you ran for county council, I'm sure that you could give me an answer like that. And I'm sure that part of that answer would be to serve and to positively impact my community. So today I would like to take a few moments to explain to all of you why it is so important to invest in economic development. Economic development is a critical component to the economic growth of Owen County. It creates new job opportunities. It increases the quality of life. We work with our local businesses to retain them. We also give them the resources so they can go ahead and look into expansion if they need to. Economic development is helping to align Owen County's future with the future plans that we need to go and present. Owen County is growing, and it is not growing by chance. Owen County is growing because of intentional, positive change. One of the greatest reasons to invest in economic development that I'd like to bring up before you is simply Owen County doesn't have a lot of money. But the demands on Owen County's growth is demanding that we invest in its growth more and more. So therefore, simply put, economic development finds money for Owen County. And that's where I'd like to bring your attention to this paper that I just passed out. Every year, for the last 3 years since I've had this position, the county has contributed annually $65,000 to our budget. If you'll look over there, then it says for a total of, since those 3 years, it's $195,000. With the contribution that the town gives for economic development, over the past 3 years, that is a $300,000 investment that has gone into the economic development here of Owen County. Now I'd like to just break that down for you though. What money has gone into the county through economic development? Through the public restroom facility, $62,682.47. Through the Bridge Grant Program, where 56 businesses were assisted and there were 272 jobs saved, a total of $250,000 invested. In broadband fiber build-outs, just in the 3 years, $20,299,675. that is not taking into account the build-outs that are happening now and finishing us up to 2023. For the Center for Entrepreneurship, $77,900. Community development, and we're talking like fireworks, banners, the neighborhood campaign that just came out for the town, business retention and expansion, and lots of other programs. $170,439.80. And of course, the comprehensive plan that we are currently working on with a grant from Okra coming in of $60,000. So the total reinvestment back into the community, just with those numbers, is $20,920,697.27. That is a 6,873.57% increase. That is quite the return on investment. That is what economic development is doing. We are currently doing everything we can to bring as much money into Owen County. And again, this only reflects what has come in the last 3 years, not what is coming our direction with Cook's workforce housing, with the continued fiber build-outs and the economic growth that we are experiencing. In the last 2 years, I have respectfully asked for an increase in my budget of $10,000. And in the last 2 years, that $10,000 increase has been denied. So I would like to respectfully again come before you today and ask for another $10,000 increase in economic development's budget. But before I close, I would like to answer one more question, why? Because I want you to know my why. Why do I love my job at economic development? Well, I can tell you why. Easy. Because on some days, I get to go down to the fairgrounds, and I get to pass out over 600 backpacks. And I get to go to every single car and hand out a Happy Meal coupon and see smiles on kids' faces. On Sundays, I get to stand at the Save-A-Lot parking lot with fireman's boot in my hand, and all these families come in to find a place for their fireworks. They scrounge through their car, finding any quarters or pennies they have to dump into that boot. On other days, I get to do a ribbon cutting, where somebody who's been dreaming of opening their own business finally gets to see that dream happen right here, and it's a local business in Owen County. And the final why that I would like to end with is that on Sundays, and these are the hard days, I get phone calls over my office from a woman who's dying from cancer. And she asks me, Marcy, is that fiber going to get to my house? Because I don't have the strength to get to the hospital, and I'd really like to have some telehealth appointments. And I don't know if you knew Geneva Green, but she passed away last month. And unfortunately, that fiber did not make it to her house yet. And that is a good challenge why I go up to my job every day. Because Owen County deserves better, the people of Owen County deserve better, and that is why I come before you today. I appreciate it, and if you have any questions about the budget, I can take that now.
Well, Marcy, I have to say, for some of the things I've been involved with and participated in with the chamber, it's always been very professional, top-notch, thorough, fun. You know, a lot of check boxes get checked, you know, with the organization. And, you know, I still think continuing our commitment is important, and our membership too in the chamber. And I see where it hasn't changed much over the last few years. I mean, I don't have an objection to the additional 10, as has been the case the last couple of years, but I'm curious to see what the discussion is.
I don't think our finances have changed a whole lot. I mean, we didn't give it last year because apparently we must have felt that the finances of Owen County was restricted. I still see the same. So I don't know how we can increase $10,000. I know it might mean a lot to your program, but then again, I'd hate to give you $10,000 and then have to cut somebody or lay somebody off next summer because we gave. I mean, you know, we only got so much money, and I don't think we want to tax the people anymore. I don't even know there's some areas that we could tax them anymore. I'm just saying that because we didn't give it the last 2 years. I don't know how we could give it this year. Our situation has not changed. It's still, we're in a positive, but not. It's critical.
I guess I agree with Nick. I mean, I can't, in all fairness, feel like give you an extra $10,000 and then ask the treasurer to cut back on our part-time, like, you know, we have talked about. I mean, that's just where I'm at. We're still trying to, you know, minimize our expenses where we can and at least keep it flat. So, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at. We're giving minimal raises to people just because we can't afford it. And that's my take. How about you, Andy?
Could I ask a question? I totally agree with both of you on, I would absolutely not want the $10,000 to come to the cost of anyone's job or anyone having to back off from what they're earning. However, the county does receive a large sum of edit funds, and I know those edit funds get spread out among many different areas. Would that affect, if we just took a little bit more of the edit funding and put in economic development, would that still affect these other places? I mean, do the jobs?
Our edit is stretched pretty thin.
Well, yeah, edit is where it already is, and I would have to disagree with the opinion there is that the edit fund does have some unused capacity, in my opinion. If you look at the revenue numbers that are probably gonna come in from the state here in the next week, there's a little bit of growth there. We had been kind of under on it a little bit, considering the total that comes in. I don't see a problem with it, even with an adjustment to the group health that's in that budget. There shouldn't be a problem with having some additional resources to use. Also, there's nothing out of this fund that funds wages or positions. There's no connection to that. So it wouldn't be taken away from another office or position that we're trying to give a raise to. This fund is where economic development comes out of, and I think it's something that is very doable. Yeah, and our fund balance has gone up in recent, it used to be, I think it was down to 300,000 at one point or something like that, if my math's correct, but I think we've got a very healthy cash balance to work with, and even if we were tight, 10,000 would last you, 50 years, for that difference there. So there's, I think, some cushion there that could
I
work.
just have one question, and I know this is a sore subject, and I totally understand your position in both sides, but when, and this all came about before I ever came on here, so I mean, I just want clarification. When they started giving in the $65,000 to the chamber, did that include your help with the redevelopment? I mean, all of the stuff that you guys did, and I understand, your position on that and having to pull back and not do all of the office work that you guys were doing, but I'm just curious. I mean, was that part of the compensation for that when it first started? Because like I said, that was before I came on.
It was grouped into contract services, but the contract services that the chamber and EDC now provides to the county has greatly increased due to the demand of growth that is happening to Owen County. The responsibilities with the fiber, with the workforce housing, with the different businesses and the BRE that we're doing, the workload has tremendously increased, and that was just not an area, or after the board of directors discussed, that we felt that was an area that we could go ahead and relinquish.
And I totally understand why you relinquished that. I just didn't know if that was part of the reason that was, that expense to you guys was incurred at the beginning. That's just.
Yeah, so
like I said,
was there any kind of contractual percentage or whatever as far as what amount was to go to funding the redevelopment?
No.
So on the question as far as the increase, so as you know, and I think being rejected twice for that amount, after we go through all the budgets and look everything over, We usually take time, to go through wish list items and, you know, see if there's any room, or changes of heart or opinion or whatever. I certainly think that, you know, it could be a discussion point tomorrow. And, you know, clearly, 10,000 is what's being asked for. There's other amounts too that could come about. But I don't know, based on, you know, what I'm hearing and based on where we're at financially, I don't, know that, you know, today there would be a vote on it or a vote in the positive for, you know, until tomorrow.
So our revenue, this year will likely be $1,018,000 in this fund. The budget, that's currently drafted is $938,500. So just on that alone, there's more than $10,000 to work with. So I don't see how this is any kind of a threat financially, especially to this fund. The other thing is we have that REMC loan payment. The last payment's gonna be made in '23, if I'm not mistaken, and that's $125,000. And one thing, if you're concerned about budget capacity, if you consider our cash balance at, what was it, $700 and some thousand, what the council could entertain is, and I know that there's not a high cost to that dollar amount, but we could go ahead and make that last payment, get that off the books. That gives you another $125,000 per year.
Talking about the redevelopment loan.
This is the REMC,
That's redevelopment.
yeah.
Yeah.
So there's
That's a whole nother issue I wanna talk about later.
So we have one payment left for that, correct? And if you were to pay that off, then as far as operationally, that's $125,000 per year that is further available for this particular fund's budget. So in the grand scheme of things, the $10,000 request is really very small.
I think we're gonna table that and after we get through the rest of the budgets and then come revisit different, because it's not just that, we have, I mean, just like you said, Andy, I mean, that, we've got different other wish lists that we need to look at.
I didn't hear from Earl.
Yeah,
I'm gonna put him on the
yeah.
spot.
So, yeah.
I feel we ought to wait till tomorrow. I really do.
If I could say one more thing.
Yes.
$10,000, in my opinion, for what has been invested back into Owen County through economic development is a small ask. Because of the return on investment that I think will come from that $10,000. I understand the county's position, but in seeing how the county's growing, in anything that we see in life, I think you reach a plateau that if you don't break through that plateau, then you're actually hindering yourself from growing. And in order for us to continue to move forward and level up, we're gonna have to continue to look for ways how to break through that. And in the last 3 years, we're absolutely thankful for the amount of money that's been invested in economic development, but there's only so far you can stretch a dollar in order for us to continue to meet the demand of growth that is happening in Owen County. So I just respectfully ask that you consider that in your discussion tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think, some counties, they have their own economic development department with county paid employees, vehicles, and resources to put towards, these efforts. We currently don't do that, but instead we simply contract it out for X amount, in this case 65, request at 75. It's a hell of a deal, if you think about it.
They also pay their employees better than we do too, so there's if you wanna compare,
Yeah,
a lot of comparisons there.
They have a lot of other resources too, besides the
Yeah.
75 or 65 they get from us, to cover whatever their expenses are, of course, but, I think it's a small price, to pay. for what you get.
My concern is just the vetting of obligations tomorrow as we wrap this thing up, because I will tell you, we have been very close on the, I think we've been very disciplined, this year, throughout this budget hearing. And I'll just tell you, for example, Soil and Water was here with, thousands of dollars of requests too, and they didn't get theirs, that was today. But certainly, and you brought an all-star cast of people here that are all people I look up to in the community, and we will revisit it tomorrow.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Do you want me to call you with the next?
Yes, please, appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
So this particular budget, if you leave the 65 in there, the match for community crossings, the final loan payment.
Okay, on that loan payment, once again, on the redevelopment, they kept the money, and we've been, and Lit Edit's been paying the loan off. That's crazy.
So.
Like I said, if I
You
could
talked
come up
about
with
the
something, I'd do it.
$155,000, and you talked about paying that off, correct?
Right.
Now, does that somehow restart, or what?
I think it ends.
Okay.
It's a loan.
It's the
But
last
what
payment.
happened was redevelopment took out this loan and they never spent it. So that money is still there while Lit Edit was paying off that loan. And they have it in their, am I correct, Jim? On the.
I haven't heard this, so I'm curious.
So, just historically, there's a cash balance left in redevelopment. The way I understood that, it's a 0% loan, so there was no, incentive whatsoever to pay it off early. At some point, I don't know if it was the beginning or when exactly that it occurred, that was paid then out of Lit Edit. It's on, I believe, on a monthly, roughly around 10,417. It's supposed to wrap up, I believe, in August of this year, so I don't even think it's a full 12 months. I think it's somewhere in the range of about 8 months payment, somewhere around $84,000 left. But that is coming out of your Lit Edit. The cash that did not have to be expended from redevelopment is in their account. So they do have a cash balance in the redevelopment account. But it looks like that money, some of that, if not all of it, would be traced back to that loan.
And it's what, like 500,000?
I'd have to look,
Yeah,
but I think
I
there was a pure theory, like a theory that there was gonna be an expansion or what was going to be happening. But in any case, whatever was done was done, and then it's been routinely paid out of the Lit Edit on a monthly basis. They vote on in their meeting that it's passed over to the auditor and they pay it.
And then when that money is there with them, once that's settled, then they pay it back to REMC?
Well,
no, it's been paid.
I think.
They already paid it to REMC?
I think that that's the issue, and I can't give you 100% clarity, but I can just give you kind of this general discussion as we're going in there. The kind of the belief is that will become redevelopment's money. That at least is a possibility. Please don't say it's absolute, but a real possibility is that the loan has been paid for, and so the bank, everyone is satisfied, and then that cash still remains for redevelopment.
Got it.
So you had this entity that took out the money, got the money still in the bank, and this over here paid off their loan. So from what I understand,
Well, it is for economic development and redevelopment in Owen County, which is a goal of the county.
No, I don't think there's any question whatsoever of the
No, it's
value or anything that went on. I think the very good news is, it does appear to wrap up in this calendar year, approximately 8 payments, so in either case, it should be exhausted this year.
Correct.
The rate's about 84,000.
Thank you.
But nothing is being done with that money. So, I mean, it was taken out for a reason. And
So there's been no discussion on plans?
oh, there's been lots of discussion.
Oh, okay,
It's
okay.
nothing done.
No, nothing definitive?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean.
Well, at least there's resources to do it, but.
So, and on with your statement about, having plenty of money, in lead edit, I mean, that's still a fund that we use for, lots of different things. And so, it's not that, it's,
It's,
Well, I mean, we're pulling in 1,000,012, our budget is less than that already. We've already got everything else that's obligated from that already there in the fund, and it totals 928.5.
but is that, I mean, Jim, is that not one of our cushion? I mean,
Well, let me explain kind of how, at least from the past, the lead edit and the riverboat were the two primary funds that were used to kind of resolve some of the issues of 2021. I think Anton was very correct. I do believe it got down in that range of around 300, 400,000. But that was, I mean, I know it's a kind of cliche, but it was kind of called the Alamo phone, just informally, because it was always used. It gets roughly 80, it gets larger, but the amount that goes to the lead edit is approximately $84,000 a month. At one time, there was, I believe, the ambulance and the sheriff's vehicle rotation, there was the community grant, there was the loan storage, in addition to group insurance, and then the Chamber of Commerce, and then also what was, just mentioned as far as that loan. All of those other things have been removed. They're, at least so far, and it's up to you tomorrow as far as 2023, but both rotations have been taken out, both the grant has been removed, the storage was paid, and in either case, one way or the other, the RMC loan will be resolved this year. Now, what was added to the lead edit was the highway grant. Now, I can say this with really pretty much high probability. Highway department, that's probably about the only way they can afford their cash match of the community grant. Now, a little bit confusion, a little math. I mean, I think anyone would say, what's 25% of 1 million? It's 250, but it's not. It's 25% of the total, so it's actually 333,000. So, looking ahead, your lead edit, I think, is your primary vehicle to pay your group insurance for the Fund 1000. I don't think you got any other way around that. For the highway, if that's how you're gonna go for economic, that is the highway's possibility of paying their share. I don't think there's any other way. Now, when you have those two left, honestly, I mean, you're asking, it's a total matter of perspective. Do you want that to be your kind of cash balance? Possibly it's one of your two funds that would have to be used for the jail in addition to the others, because the balance there. So it's a level of comfort. If you're asking me a level of comfort, well, I mean, you already know what my answer is. I'm just giving you an opinion that that's been what's been used in the past, and that's what's kind of been your protection with it. The other perspective is also a valid way to look. Here's this amount coming in, what we're gonna go. You as a council, I know has to make that decision, but the numbers are really the numbers, 84,000 times 12 minus the 2, that's gonna be your balance. Your determination is $10,000 the good investment for that, or is that your protected fund? But I mean, I think that's kind of analysis of kind of where that is. Lead edit definitely, I think, will be involved in the jail project when and if that occurs.
What I was thinking, mainly, is I think we're going overboard the way it is on our expenses here. If we have to go into that to help us out on the whole budget end of it. you know?
Well, I guess what I'm saying, if something obviously would occur, like a repeat of some kind, I mean, you basically have what's ever left in general. You do have your lit edit, and you would have your riverboat. I would say those are your more, I'm using the term kind of liquid, those are kind of your three most liquid, funds. It's not your only avenue, but in the past, that's kind of what Owen County's used.
But don't you think it'd be wiser to wait until after what we see our final, is on our budget?
Oh, if you're asking me, is it a good idea just to think about this and discuss it tomorrow? Well, I mean, I'm absolutely going to say that. I mean, I'm probably not the only one tired in the room, so I mean, like thinking about something, tomorrow and looking at that, you're gonna hear that answer from me on everything. You've got only a couple of hearings tomorrow and then a time to add up and go. But it's a council's choice on where you want to see.
That's what I was thinking. I think it'd be better if we,
Well, there's
I
no
mean,
harm in-
$10,000 isn't much, but.
No one made a motion to make a decision this afternoon anyway, but there's nothing wrong with that, I think. You gotta look at the revenue and the expenses and the cash balance, and there's a trifecta of positive with this particular fund, and we're talking $10,000 towards something that's been very valuable. That's my opinion on it, but we can make a decision tomorrow on that.
I have a question, and
Yes.
where did we get the 65,000 that we get? Does it come from?
65.
Yeah, that's, yeah,
$10,000 rate.
It comes,
It comes from lit edit.
it's already in there, yes.
I mean, in light of where we're at, we're gonna cut them, we shortened them 2 years because we saw the financial crunch. I don't think we're ready, but that's my opinion. If they have a problem with that, I don't know what to do. But we have to make some decisions that are tough sometimes, and I think that $10,000 could be a bucket somewhere down the road that might be beneficial to save. I mean, if we wasn't giving them nothing, that's a different story, but they're getting 65,000 from taxpayers.
So as the budget stands now, it's $928,465. That includes community crossings, the current amount that they get, which is 65. It includes the final loan payment, and it includes $405,132 for group health insurance, which reflects a 5% increase based on 52 employees. But that's subject to change plus or minus a little bit. But back to that loan thing, Jim, I had in the notes that the final payment's in '23. You mentioned something about that's gonna end up being done soon or this year. Where does that end fall?
23, clearly, what I'm talking
Okay.
about, I believe it's August of 23.
Got it.
So what I'm saying is I don't think it's the whole 125.
Well, that's helpful too.
It should be
Okay.
roughly in the range of about 84,000 is what should be left on that in 2023.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's better. Okay. Thank you. I think that's the last thing for the day.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think I'm good with that.
We did accomplish.
do we do anything with redevelopment since we don't have, what do we do about that?
I think we need to contact Craig Kaufman, their president, and I think the commissioners have a say so.
Okay.
I think it is certainly a good question, is what is the plan?
Do that later?
We can bring it to the September meeting.
Okay.
You just have to vote on it then, so we need to tell them a couple weeks, so you guys have a couple weeks to really look at it.
Okay.
And again, I think Gary sits on that board, so him and Craig, and I don't know who all's on the board.
I am.
Look, are you on there now? Okay. And Jim's gonna go, and so I don't know, we've only had this a couple of months, and I don't know what really their budget portion was, or what their expenses are, so I wouldn't even begin to know an amount, so.
Okay, do we want to adjourn for today?
Recess.
Or recessing, sorry, wrong word. I'm tired, Sheila.
I think it's been a good day. I mean,
Productive, yes.
I'm
And we really don't,
happy
we
guys
really don't
have-
have too much left.
See my book here, is that okay?
I'm locking the door.
Oh, good.